Yeah.
Do you miss home?
No. If I was kidnapped and I lost a kidney or two, then that's on me. Sweet little old ladies who are like, "Hey, where are you from? Can I touch your hair?"
It's like, whoa.
Right.
Space.
I was alone for no more than 24 hours.
Maybe that's why you're good at it.
I can feel my progress and I feel my mentality and my emotional state changing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom Without Borders. Today, my special guest is Jasmine, and she is extremely special because we just met today. So I have absolutely no idea who she is, but just based on the conversation that we've had so far, she is on her first solo trip. And I am honored to have her here to speak with us how her experience has been, who she is, and what her story is like. So welcome, Jasmine. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Anna. Hi, everyone. Happy to chat with you guys today.
Yes. Can you please tell everyone who you are, where you're from?
Okay. Well, my name is Jasmine. I am 33, almost 34 years old, coming from the United States. I was born and raised in California.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, as you said, this is my first solo trip.
Yeah.
Coming in this year, having decided to, make a little selfish decision and enjoy myself a bit.
Right. So what made you have this idea?
I have always wanted to travel. I think I was telling you a little bit earlier, ever since I was a little girl, I had these really wild ambitions to travel the world. I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with the movie Anti-Mame, but it's a noir film about this rich aunt who takes in her nephew and flies him all the way across the world. They go to Dubai, they go to England, they go to Asia, they're everywhere. And she's just this really wild, lively character. And ever since I was young, I thought, okay, I want to be that person.
Oh, so it stuck with you.
It did. And it's really funny because my goals as I got older turned into, more specific goals. Like, when I graduate college, I want to go teach English in another country. And then, things happen, life gets in the way, So I graduated college and I wound up working and helping family and, getting caught up in relationships and waiting for friends. And all of a sudden, I was 33 years old and I'd never left the country.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did a weekend trip with my sister that I don't really count. It was down to Mexico. We drove across the border with one of her friends. It was, entirely like a little sister moment where I'm just tagging along. Like, I'm not gonna make my presence very known because I don't want to be bothersome. Like, I'm on my sister's dime. Here I am in Mexico. So my first trip actually was last year.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, you are a virgin.
Basically, yes. Last year I was like, I'm gone. Screw it. I'm out of here.
But that's crazy though. And look at you, right? How long have you been away from home already, this trip?
I arrived, my first stop was actually in Thailand. And I arrived in Chiang Mai on February 5th. So it's been about a month now that I've been gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you miss home?
No.
That's how I felt, because I feel like you're a natural. You're so at ease. We were in a car ride. You just kind of like, I'm just gonna take a nap, and you're not anxious. You don't care where we're going, what's happening. You're in a foreign country. I'm like, this chick is relaxed, right? So obviously she has some experience. So when I heard that this is your first solo trip, I'm like, she doesn't ask anything. Like, is it like, don't you get worried? What if we kidnap you?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think today is a kind of an exception.
I've never met you. I'm driving. Like, you showed up at my condo like before the sun came out in the dark.
It's true. So I did have that thought, and I think that I'm it's for the audience. We're connected by a mutual friend,
Yes.
and my family
What
knows
if?
her. We know where you live,
That's true.
so I felt pretty comfortable. Like I, here I'm with somebody who's very familiar with the area. I'm with her friends, and I've heard so much about everyone. Positive things. So if I was kidnapped and I lost a kidney or two, then that's on me. But for the audience, I did not take this approach in any country before this. This is a special case.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think with traveling, what's really special is that once you step out, then you realize nobody is trying to do anything to you.
The world is so much less intimidating after having left the house. I think the funny thing is before this trip, as I was planning it and packing and talking to family members, my aunt, my mom, my grandma, everybody says, I don't want you to go. Make sure you have a friend to go with you. It's not safe. What happens if something happens to you? Make sure your location is on at all times. And that made the anxiety build, right? So when you land and you walk out there, your first thought is, oh my gosh, all eyes are going to be on me. Oh my gosh. Okay, I got to make sure I'm not kidnapped today. I can't talk to any strangers. How am I going to eat?
Yeah, and you look exotic in Southeast Asia, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you can't go unnoticed. And look at those beautiful braids. Seriously, I love it. If only I can do the same. I can.
I think that ultimately, after getting out and walking around, there weren't as many eyes as you think there will be, and even then the people who are looking at you are just looking, and the people who have had to speak to me have been these sweet little old ladies who are like, hi, where are you from? Can I touch your hair? Are you from
Really? I'm sorry.
No, it's totally okay. I think it's some of the most, I think coming from where I come from, the expectation was, oh, you're going to experience so much racism. No one's gonna like that you're there. Was basically, that was the worry from some of my family members. And so instead, I've had some of the most accepting experiences where people are like, hey, you should try this food. You should go to that restaurant.
Everyone wants to be your friend.
Exactly. Can I have your WhatsApp? Where are you going next? And it's
like, whoa.
Right.
Space.
I'm not going to tell you where I'm going, but, we can talk about traveling. And I've met flight attendants. I've met expats. I've met, just wandering.
Yeah. And it's very special when you feel welcome everywhere. Right? Every single person that you come across along the way, I'm sure you just feel very welcome.
I do. And for example, my last week in Bangkok, I walked into a cafe, and my priority in Bangkok was not cafes. I was like, I want to go, experience everything. I want to go to the river. I want to go to the malls. Who cares about coffee? But I did. I stopped in a cafe on my second to last day in Bangkok. The manager was there, and I didn't know she was there. So I sat down, I ordered myself some breakfast and an interesting looking coffee. And as I'm eating, I noticed that they're watching me. And, I want to ask them about their playlist, because one of the things that I'm working on this trip is every country that I go in, I'm trying to find music that I like. And I'm making playlists for each country.
Oh my God, that's what I do.
You do the same?
Not deliberately, but I would listen to the songs. It was funny because when I was in Nepal, I went to this bar and then they were playing Nepalese song, right? And then all of a sudden I was the only customer. So immediately they were playing like pop songs, right? I'm like, I can't listen to pop songs anywhere else, but I need the local songs because I can't read the characters. I just had to Google it and then search it, and I just saved all the songs.
Shazam saved me because I'm in the middle of this cafe, okay, oh no, it didn't work. Try again, okay. And I think after seeing me sitting there, kind of dancing along for a while, the manager, she gets up and she comes over and she's like, "Hi, where are you from?"
Right. Yeah.
And it starts off this really great conversation. She tells me about their cafe. She tells me, she was a flight attendant for 30 years. And, she tells me about her kid and their travels. And she says, I really want you to come back.
I got a friend already. You've got a friend all the way in Bangkok.
Exactly. And I said, oh my gosh, I wish I had come here for my first breakfast because, it would have been great. But we did. We ended up I went back the next day before my flight and we had like a really great candid conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have felt so much peace, acceptance, and, in just this short month,
Yeah, and I think that brings a really good point because I notice the people that I am very good friends with are often the ones that I met on vacation when I'm traveling. Both we are out of our comfort zones a little bit, but we are truly ourselves. And the only reason why we are talking is because one was really interested in the other. Because we could have just crossed paths just like that, right? But that lady walked up to you, so she's really interested in having this conversation with you, and I think immediately the bond is formed.
Exactly.
Right? It's not because there's anything that anyone wants from each other, because obviously we have nothing in common, right? In that cafe, then I'm like, yeah, it is a very pleasant feeling because anytime a stranger walks up to me, initially when I wasn't so experienced in terms of like solo traveling, I would get very anxious. Like, what do you want from me? Like, it's like, am I gonna get mobbed? It's like, but it's all imaginative, right? But now it's like I would just wait because it's always a little awkward because then you kind of wait for the opening line, man or woman, right? So I don't think it's something that is normal for everybody. But the fact that they came up, that's a really good feeling, though.
And I think that's really the interesting part because maybe back home, you're right, it would have been a situation where we just crossed paths.
Yeah.
But the situation was so unique, and I think I've exchanged contact information with several people on this trip so far, and it's first of all, some of the things that I'm remembering and I focus on throughout my trip is the same level of caution that you have at home when you walk down the street. You should have in another country. Obviously, you should be aware of all of the safety notices that are going out. Be aware, but it isn't one of those big scary things like you said before. So when I'm approached by a stranger, as long as I know who's behind me and that's not like 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
And I haven't been flashing my money.
Correct.
It's usually they have something interesting to say. They say, I've had people stop me and be like, hey, go try that food over there.
Right.
That stand is really good. Try it before you go home.
Right.
Or, just passing by, So a lot of the situations, you're right, have been a combination of, we're in this new situation, this new and unusual interaction is happening.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you liking it?
Right. Right.
Is it your first time?
But it's really funny though, because the more I do it, the less afraid I am, right? And then it starts making sense that why was I afraid the whole time? Because there was one time I was in Portugal, and obviously this in Portugal is pretty obvious. You stand out, They're just things that you don't have to do anything, that you stand out as a tourist and as a foreigner.
Yeah.
So, a random person came up to me and, having this conversation, and I was like, yeah, it's just, I'm just traveling by myself and blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking, like, after the conversation, I was thinking back to myself, like, the whole process was, first, I was alarmed. Well, I was like, should I run? Or should I, and my body tensed up, right? So, but then I was like, wait, well, everybody can see me. It's bright daylight. I'm smack in the middle of a square. A random guy came up to me. People are ready to jump in, but they're just kind of watching what's happening, right?
Yes.
So I was like, yeah, there was nothing to be afraid of. And obviously, I left safely.
Yeah, here you are.
Right? Because if he wasn't going to let me go, other people are gonna jump in because people were like looking, do you need help, right? And then people were just like, okay, this is okay. Then they walked away with a smirk. But but it makes sense, right? Because at the same time, and also if a foreigner, like if there's anything that went wrong, embassy is gonna step in, police is gonna step in. It's a big deal,
It is.
right?
And I think that, for the same as you, I was in Costa Rica.
Mhm.
That was my first trip. It was my first solo, not even solo. It was meant to be a solo trip, but it was not a solo trip. My first trip was in Costa Rica. I'm sorry, last September, and I was alone for no more than 24 hours. But when I tell you, the from the taxi drivers to the hotel staff members, if it was an older person, they immediately took on the role of caring elder. Oh, like, hey, mommy, don't go there. Don't eat that. Don't go to that street. Don't be over there at night. Like, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. I have you.
Yeah.
Or if it's a younger person, they're like, hey, I'll tell you where to hang out. And it was really kind of they think you're interesting.
Yes.
And they want to embrace you the same way you want to embrace their home, I think.
Correct.
As long as you're respectful.
For sure. And I agree with that because I think everybody innately somehow have a level of, what do you call that? Like patriotism. Like I represent my country to this foreigner. Exactly. I need to make an impression. Exactly. Right? So no matter who I am, outside of your world, that's another story, right? So in front of you, I'm going to be the warmest. I'm going to be welcoming. I'm going to be on my best behavior. So therefore, I think it's actually, you're going to get the best treatment, especially if you're a woman. I think learn how to use your advantage. People are eager to help.
I will say, so for my Costa Rica trip, I was in Tamarindo, and for my first week, my siblings, my brother and my sister, tagged along. The best treatment out of all of us was definitely my brother. Everyone wanted to be this man's best friend. When I say,
why?
We would walk down the street and I'd hear my brother, and everyone knew my brother. In the week that we were there, he knew all the slang. By the time he left, he'd be like, 20s, pura vida. And it was some of the most entertaining things. I feel like as a woman, we can inspire a more protective instinct from the people who are around us. But I feel like as watching my brother, everyone wanted to be genuinely his friend. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because he's like 6'5" and like very gentle and friendly looking.
Oh, yeah, that's just really lovable and huggable, probably.
He has that look, I think. So it could just be that, like, Jay, your face is really, really friendable.
Yeah, and I think that's and smiley people, you're welcome everywhere.
It's very true.
I just don't. I always have this very silly philosophy. I think people are always watching, right? So if I want to find a victim, I'm gonna be smart about it. This really smiley person that is always looking around and paying attention and enjoying her experience, not a good target. So I think it's just one of those things that when you start paying attention, like what you said, then you just won't be the target.
Exactly. If you're self-aware, you pay attention to where you're going. You don't go to seedy areas. You figure out what is seedy here.
Right.
And if you are going to go to a seedy area, go in bright daylight. Make sure people know you're going.
Right. But help me understand though, because I've always kind of traveled around, so I still get anxious going into a country, especially if they don't speak my language. But I don't understand, like, how, what are some of the things that you believed before you left the country?
So
that stopped you from traveling outside of the country?
I think that one of them was the first one, that not everybody would be accepting of a person of color in their country. So I think the big fear and anxiety was about what kind of racism I may face. That might be in danger. Not only as a woman or a Black woman, or even as an American. There are so many hosts of things that people were listing off, like XYZ, and you need to be careful. And
the same thing people tell me when I go to America.
Yeah.
people hate Asians. I don't think so.
Exactly. It's one of those things you go and then you're like, hey, have you left the country before?
Yeah.
So there's definitely that. I think one of the big hurdles for me was navigating the language barrier. I think Costa Rica was really easy because I have really good broken Spanish. Just enough to say ayúdame.
No, you're good.
Hambre.
The important
¿Dónde
ones.
está el baño?
See?
I had enough to get through. And one of the big fears that I had was what I don't have is basically any other language. Anything else at all. So, what happened when I get on that plane and I land in Hong Kong or Bangkok and I don't speak any language, and that was my big fear hopping on the plane, because on the plane they speak in English. They say, hey, welcome to the flight, you're going to here, and then when you land, that's when things change.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, when the airport door opens, that's when shit hits the fan. You're like,
you're like,
oh.
She started this flight in English. She ended this flight with Sawadika.
Yeah, that's what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And then like movement. It just, what the hell is going on?
And then you have to move, and you have to move quickly. And I think
You don't know where you're going.
you don't know where you're going. And I know what is it, Latin script, right? So now everything's in different scripts, different characters, and you're sitting there like,
go, and then you're like,
exactly. I think what helped was, I think it's kind of a blessing and a privilege that English is spoken as widely as it is, and that's a very selfish point of privilege. I did not expect it, but landing and seeing that right underneath characters in Chinese, you see welcome. I said, oh, okay.
you belong.
I don't belong, but I can make it somehow, like there's just a little bit. And so, walking through, not everybody can speak English when I talk, but I could point.
Right.
And I could show them my boarding pass, and they could say, oh,
and you can do charades.
exactly. And, eventually you start walking and hearing the intercom, and things do switch languages, and they say, okay, if you're in English, you're going to this gate. And so I think that my first wave of anxiety calmed down at Hong Kong airport. And I think it was I made it through customs just by following the crowd. After making it through customs, they were nice enough to help me figure out how to get through, even with our language barrier. And then I ordered myself a Starbucks coffee. And I said, okay, listen, I just bought a Starbucks internationally. I can do this. I can do this. Okay.
And then you go home, you go to them, because I do that too. Like, all of the sudden, familiarity. I know how to read the menu. I know what I want in a foreign country. It's the same damn thing I order at home.
And it's like, you find the smallest things to bring you a little peace, a little ease, a little comfort of home. And I do think that order, just right after I'm drinking my Starbucks and I'm calm.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm okay.
I'm okay. I made it through this, the biggest, because that was my biggest fear. I think it was I was telling you before, it was what happens if I miss my plane? What happens if I can't find my gate? How do I in my bag, I have pocket books. I have a pocket Thai, a pocket Mandarin, a pocket Japanese. I was like, I'm gonna make it.
You were prepared.
Guess who didn't need any of those books? I needed Google Translate for all of 30 seconds.
You just need data.
And that was, and great. I had my eSIM.
Yeah.
I had my little Google Translate, and there was one point in time where I had someone speak into the microphone, and it wasn't even on an airport. I think it was at a restaurant.
Yeah, I think you guys have no idea how much American, culture, movies, everything influences the world. So.
I didn't. I personally didn't. I would say anyone I spoke to who knew that I was going on the trip didn't. They were like, oh, you're going into some place where you're just going to be tossed in and confused.
Mhm.
And I believed it.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason why I had to go.
Exactly. Oh, I love that though. Why?
Just facing discomfort, growth through trials, and challenging myself to navigate, accommodate, and grow into whatever challenge I put myself in front of.
Wow. But why? How did you become this way?
I think that my nature has always been to be somebody who's constantly looking for an area to improve. And it took me a long time to understand just what that meant. But when I was younger, it was, oh, I like drawing. So I'm gonna, and I don't like that I drew this poorly. So let me keep going. Oh, I like this video game, but I did really bad. So let me just keep playing until I'm good. Or, every time I found a different thing that I liked or found an interest in, I pursued it until I met a level of confidence in that thing. And I pursued challenges tenaciously over and over again that way. And maybe in my mid to late 20s, I realized I was not happy. I I was just kind of coasting. I wasn't challenging myself anymore, and I didn't realize that it was that I wasn't challenging myself. It was just I felt like I improved on all of the things that I had set out in front of myself. Okay, I graduated college. I got a job. My career is great. My coworkers love me. I have a house. I know how to work on my house. What's next? Nothing. And I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And one day I picked up hiking, and I was no, it wasn't hiking. I ran a Spartan race, and I did really bad. Like for the lowest Spartan races, the 5K, I almost passed out. I fell off of so many obstacles. I was covered in like scrapes and bruises. It took me 2 hours, and I was so let down with myself that I said I'm gonna do Spartans over and over again until I'm good at Spartan races. That's it. I hated running, and I had so much fun doing the Spartan races and watching myself improve. It took me like 5Ks before I actually did one that I was proud of. But that kicked it off. I was like, oh, I'm not happy because I'm not doing anything to get stronger mentally or in whatever skills that I choose. And so I started looking for things. Okay, what can I improve on? How can I grow? In what areas? So how can I be a better friend? How can I be a better communicator? How can I be stronger? Like, hobbies do I have, and how can I get better at them? And how can I face my fears? What fears do I have, and how can I address them?
With all the skills, I would agree that we all want to improve them. I would even argue that sometimes we are overly critical in terms of improving those skills just because there is a reason to improve, because, etc. Fill in the blank. But when it comes to fears, I don't think people actively look for fears to overcome. It's not necessarily the most comfortable area to play in,
I think it all ties together for me. Facing my fears is about discomfort. And proving my skills in something is about discomfort in its own way for me.
So does victory means overcoming this discomfort?
No. The benchmark is not victory.
Okay.
The benchmark is, I'm not sure how to describe this. So we can go back to an example of drawing or playing a video game. I set my own internal benchmark of what I want to be able to do. So my goal with drawing may be, I would like to draw a very pretty eye, just the eyeball, no more than that. As long as I can draw a really pretty eye, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and I will get to that point. And it's not the mastery of the thing, it's instinct, it's gut, it's at some point I feel happy to have achieved improvement in a way that is tangible to me instinctually. And when I recognize an area where I have a fear, I have an anxiety, um, or I sense that instinctually I want to do more, there is a level of discomfort with knowing that I have pursued it if I just leave it.
Right, right. So you kind of left money on the table.
Exactly.
But you are somebody, I assume, that is supposedly left-minded because you're a software engineer, right? But at the same time, you do have a very light-hearted personality. And at the same time, you have bought your own house at the age of 33, 34, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So when you talk about overcoming anxiety, fears, how do you decide this benchmark, whether or not this benchmark is worthy of your time and effort? Because it's always, you only have 24 hours, right? Where are you going to dedicate your time to? Money making, you already have a busy life, I assume. So, yeah.
I think it's about intentionality. I prioritize things, but it's also kind of a gut thing. So you say, left-minded. I think I am probably a really crazy software engineer because if I think about it, it's like,
But maybe that's why you're good at it. I have a feeling that's why you're good at it. Because I always think that people outside of the circle, because we are able to see what's happening, what's wrong inside. That's why we're able to come up with better solutions. Not because it's better than what exists, but because it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's completely like it doesn't exist. We just came out like out of nowhere because we don't know better, right?
Exactly. Okay, what if we just
Yeah, it's just brilliant.
exactly. And what if we fish with this bucket? I would say I have a lot of bad ideas often, but I think that I have a level of comfort with throwing them out there and throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. As far as where my effort goes and when I choose to and why, it depends on my compass at the time, right? So I might have an overall life goal. So I think some people have very specific goals. Like in 2026, I want to save $10,000. For
It's
me,
so stressful.
I think it's so stressful.
that statement is just like,
I know. And for me, people ask me what my New Year's resolution was, and I said I want to be a better friend and more intentional person. I want to think about the decisions that I'm making and be intentional going forward. And so, what does that mean to me? What decisions can I make to be intentional towards myself? Because I can't be a better friend if I can't be good to myself. And so then that's when I started thinking back, okay, what were my goals? What are my fears? How can I hone myself?
yeah.
And thinking that way, I kind of prioritize things.
And I love that though, because when you set goals like this, you're not trying to prove anything to anyone. And nobody would ever know your effort.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be honest with yourself, whether or not you made it or not.
Exactly.
And for me, I think also that could mean you will always be a winner. Right? Because if you set one intention out of the year, you did.
Yeah.
You did. It's a progress.
Exactly.
Right?
And
I think that's really smart.
and I feel like you feel your results. You're not missing, oh, I'm $10 short or I didn't get that award that I wanted. It's I made progress no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I decided to be intentional, I can choose to do something intentionally today. I can think, okay, how can I be a better daughter? Let me call my mom. I did something intentional today. I am successful. And I don't have to think about the number of times I was intentional. I feel like doing, practice makes a habit, right? You work 10,000 hours of doing a thing.
Yeah.
It starts with a tiny bit, and eventually you make progress. And that's why I like these abstract goals, because I can feel my progress and I feel my mentality and my emotional state changing as I change who I am through intention.
Mm-hmm. And that's how how do you decide what your life goal is?
That's a tough one because I don't have a life. Mm-hmm. I have a now goal. And
have you always been like that?
No, before it was I need a house and I need a car and I need, to graduate college and I need a great career. And what I realized at the end of it all is we kind of touched on before is once you reach those goals, what's next? And that becomes the crux of it. And I think that's what took me down because I finished everything and you have that like that burst of dopamine. I made it. And then
Now I'm bored.
yeah, now what?
Yeah,
Okay,
same.
so do I change my career or you know here we are.
Now what? This.
Yeah. And I think what happens next for me was okay, well, how can I continue to grow as a person and how can I continue to find satisfaction in life?
Yeah.
And that's it brought me back to childhood. Like what made me happy as a kid, what made me happy as a teenager, what kept me going outside of these goals and how did I form those goals for myself? Why did I want a career and a house and a car? Why did I want those things? Why did I make those things my goal? Well, because when I was 16, I wanted to play piano. And when I was 18, I wanted to be a polyglot. And,
You are bilingual.
ish.
Of course you are.
But at the end of the day, I think when I went back to the reason why I had those original, more tangible goals, it made me think about all of the things I wanted before that were both things that costed money or things that I just felt like come from being happy. And, I think as a kid, you want to be fearless. So
Yeah.
you face your fears.
Yeah.
As you want to make friends. So you learn how to communicate. And I think that's what brought me back. It was, okay, I had all of these goals for a reason. Let's go back to what I can do now to be the person I wanted to be when I was 16.
It's crazy though, because for me, I follow my fears too. After reading a book, I think it's something along the lines of following your fears, and it's very uncomfortable. So, but it does give me like shivers as you tell me about your first experience. I think that's really precious because that's, for me, it shakes your system so much that it sets the reset button that you can do it however you want.
Exactly.
Right? So you can follow the herd, you can just follow the crowd and just continue walking, not knowing where you're going, or you can step aside and watch what the hell is going on and decide where you want to go. Right? And for me, and that's the beauty of traveling, because you're nobody. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares who you are. And you can just be anybody. And that's when I train my muscle of redefining and recreating identities that way. Because you can be a kind person here, and you can be a very friendly person here, and you can be introvert here. It's up to you, and nobody really cares, right? And that's when you get to train different sides of you and experiment whether you like it or not. So I think that part it's the joy of overcoming fears, and that's why I do it again and again. It's every time I get that like jitters, I'm like, no, yes.
Yes.
It's like the conscious mind kicks in. No, oh hell yes,
Exactly.
because you said no, that's why you are going.
Exactly.
You're doing it.
Actually, yes, I should. Okay, just press the button.
Oh yeah.
Go book the trip, book the tour, go do the thing.
Right, and it just you just show up, right, and then you sit there. It's like, okay, I'm here. What?
Exactly.
And then it will happen. It will just happen, and the best things happen because I've learned that you always get rewarded.
You do.
Always.
And it's always more than just it's mental reward. It unlocks
forms.
Yes.
And then it just keeps coming, right? It just keeps coming.
I was reading a book, The Beautiful Question, and it's a book about, innovative questions. But one of the chapters talks about learning how to reactivate your child mind. And he talks about how we learn how to ask questions or think about things a certain way by using our neural pathways, which eventually dead end if we don't use them anymore. And that's why you stuck in certain habits. But when you practice thinking out of the box and doing something different, they open up again. And after reading that, I was like, I must do things differently, no matter how uncomfortable it makes me, because I want all of the neural pathways. I don't want just one or two. I don't want what I've had over the last 30 years. I want all of them.
Oh, I love it though. That's why it's so good when I had the conversation with you just now that I had to talk to you more. But I wanted to, have this on camera because it is very exciting. Because I do the same thing consciously now. And the more you do it, you get really creative. And that's why all these ideas that I have, and when I meet children, right, wisdom is everywhere. And also that's why people ask me like, don't you feel lonely when you solo travel? I'm like, no, actually when you start to get to know yourself better and you start to play with your imagination and what is happening inside and get to know yourself, you're like, oh my god, I like this character.
Exactly.
And you can create and recreate this character. It's like your imaginary friend, but it's manifested out in the reality in real time. And it's so much fun, right? If you don't like it, you can change it.
And you touched on it earlier. The expectations. You can be whoever you want to be, and you learn who you want to be in every situation that you enter, right? I'm Jasmine in a big city. I'm Jasmine in a small city. I'm Jasmine in a shopping mall who actually hated shopping malls until she went to, until she had an experience in Bangkok where she was,
She's a cafe girl now.
Exactly. She's a cafe girl. And it is really interesting because I have had friends and family call me and say, "You're not lonely yet?" No, I'm not. I'm actually having such a great experience here with my new best friend, me.
Yeah, and I now understand what it means by I am alone, but I'm not lonely. And if you ever want to have a conversation, there are a lot of people that are more than happy to have a conversation with you.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that is very good to know. Once you step out, then you're what was I afraid of? So if you were to go back and redo the whole thing, right? Because obviously you have sprint through your career as well. You kind of got there a little early, but it's a good thing. That's why we're here. So if you have to do it again, how would you do it different?
My first trip as in February, or from my early 20s going to college and.
Yeah, if you were to, I think college. Probably if you were to like just look out, right? How would you set yourself up? How would you pace yourself to have a more rewarding life, career, relationship, better relationship with yourself?
I think that if I was to do it differently, I was telling our friend this last night, I would invest in GameStop right before they. But no, in all seriousness, I actually think that my college experience was really fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
The person that I was then needed the experience that I had.
Okay.
Going into college, I was very shy, and I think one of the things that I really appreciate about my life is I've had mentors at every cornerstone. Every time I turn a page in my life, I have somebody who says, "Hey, Jasmine, you should consider this. You should think about it this way." And so college, I don't think I would do very different. Post college is what I would have changed a little bit. And I think I was so aggressive that I couldn't really appreciate some of the experiences that I was having, right? I worked so hard. I went from, I felt like my first job was really easy. But it was a really good opportunity. So I left it very early. And I'm still friends with those team members to this day. But there were so many other things that I could have learned in that easy role.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took on a job where I was working quite a bit more. And after that job, I took on one where I was working quite a bit more. And I wound up waiting until I was 33 to go on my first real vacation, right? Out of the country at least.
Yeah, that's true.
So
after you have checked all the boxes.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, I'm tired.
It's like no vacation in between and then retirement.
Exactly. So I did like a weekend here in New York, but on a very strict budget, on a very strict timeline, making sure I was answering to on-call messages. And same thing, every time I went somewhere, strict budget, strict timeline, I was really able to just recoup. There's one thing I do differently is I tell myself to prioritize yourself. Take some time, breathe, take a real vacation, and you can't help others until you can help yourself.
Yeah.
Is another big message that I think, Jasmine 10 years ago needed to hear, because I spread myself so thin trying to make sure that every box was checked for every person, and I was successful, but the only person I didn't check a box for was me.
I get you, because it's the same thing, and the most difficult thing that I had to do was to help myself before I help my family. That's the toughest part.
That is the hardest one.
Because you had to say no to them because you're trying to protect yourself and get better first so that you could be there for them. And I think that's something that still you have to prioritize yourself, because if there's no you, there's no your family.
Right. If you get sick, you can't help. Who can help your family?
Right.
If you're not taken care of, if you're not able to breathe and be comfortable and maintain, you can't help anyone.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned something that is really spot on. Breathe. It blows my mind when people, myself included, I need to learn how to walk when I had knee issues. I need to learn how to walk correctly again. And a lot of people are paying a lot of money to learn how to breathe. And to learn little things that like learn how to stretch, or pay others to help them stretch, which I don't get. Because it's not a once a week thing, So I feel like all these things, why don't we just... A lot of people don't do that too.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And now that I know, it's like, it feels so good.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened to me. Like, last year was so busy. I had friends getting married back to back. I was a bridesmaid and a maid of honor in 2 weddings in April. So that meant from January until May, I was okay. So I went dress shopping for this one and dress trying on for that one. And I'm going to Arizona for this and California for that, living in Nevada. I'm back and forth. And then one wedding happens and the next wedding happens, and I'm planning bachelorette parties, and it was like I was breathing and like hyperventilating.
Right.
And then, my relationship was busy. And then after all of the weddings, all of the things going on in my relationship at the time, it ended with my nephew's birthday. And at that point, it all just kind of tipped over. And not even in a dramatic way. And I said, oh, this isn't working. I did a really good job this year. Actually, it was very successful. But you know who I didn't put any time in? Me, actually. So you know what? Next month I'm leaving. I'm going to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And after that, we'll figure out the rest when we get there. And from there on, I just, all last year, it was just...
And then you realize when you do that, you can do a lot more.
You can do a lot more.
You are so much better at what you do just because you start breathing.
Right. I was able to be such a better friend.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've heard this from my friends in the since months. I had a friend who I recently went to lunch with, and he said, why don't we do this more? I actually really appreciate this conversation with you, Jasmine. And I said, I'm really sorry. I am actually sorry to hear that you had to ask me that question, because that's not the kind of friend that I want to be to you. I said, but I haven't been living my life for myself. And I haven't been prioritizing my relationships or the time that I need, and therefore I didn't have time to be a good friend to you. And now I'm breathing and I'm thinking and I'm able to be intentional and to think about my friends on a daily basis when I'm not thinking about what's on fire.
Yeah, and you're just sending love.
Exactly.
Just sending, because you're so full, right?
Exactly. I told someone the other day, I am overflowing with happiness.
Yeah, people scream in my face. I'm just like, okay,
it's good.
Life is good.
Exactly. People are saying, what are you looking for? Like when it comes to dating, what are you looking for? Nothing. I'm happy. Are you happy? Because I'm happy. And that's...
Well, yeah, that is a blessing.
Yeah.
When I found out how difficult it is to be happy, and I'm just blessed that I knew how to be happy And I've always remembered how to be happy as a child. That was something that I held on to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's something that you can tell yourself because whatever you repeat becomes true.
It's very true.
Yeah. And I learned a better way to say it. So the whole time when I was a kid, I told myself, no matter what happens, I can smile to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently met another friend that told me, you should just say, I am happy, because that's what I tell myself. So she tells herself, no matter what happens, because she came from a place that had wars. So she was like, no matter what happens, I'm happy.
Right.
That's a way better statement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and you go through the checklist of all the things you have to be grateful for. And I think that when you're not in the place to hear it, you're not in the place to hear it. And somebody tells you, think about the things you have to be grateful for, you're like, get out of here, man. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But then when you're ready and you're receptive to hearing that, I really have gone over the list. Like, my siblings love me. And I could not appreciate that 2 years ago, but they truly.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think we all forget that no matter what happens, you have to be there for yourself.
Exactly.
You know, the world can do everything to you, but you can't. Our only responsibility is to take good care of this. You know, people can scold you, people can call you names, do whatever to you, but the last thing that we can do to ourselves is be critical or be ashamed of who we are or believe whatever crap that people feed us.
Yes.
People already forgot and they still carry it, right? That's like the dumbest things that we do. Still holding on to that.
Exactly.
But they have moved on with their life.
Once you find all the things to be grateful for, the things that you like about yourself. And it is easy to let go of the things that, like you said, the people have said to you, the things that people
You don't like me, it's okay. I
exactly.
like me. I like me.
That's okay. You know, sucks. I mean, for you, because I think I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, and I have people that like me. That's okay that you don't.
Exactly.
You know, I like myself. I have people that like me. And then we can just, I will get out of my face. I'll get out of your face. I will excuse myself so that I don't.
Exactly. Here, let me just go. I'll go find my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. But what is it for you now, Jasmine? Like, you're obviously, you cannot unsee what you have seen. I don't think you can just go back to LA and just, never come back again and pretend nothing has happened. So what is your approach going forward?
That's a good question. So I still have about a month left in my trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of time to think about that and more. But I've been really thinking about what I want from my career, what I want from home, where is home, and what next year looks like for me. And, one of the first things that I can think about is, okay, so next year I'm going on this almost this exact same trip. I would like to be intentionally more kind to myself, which is something that I said, before, which means
Start now.
Exactly. Starting now, taking the breaks, taking the breathers, getting the massages, going to the beach. Because I hadn't been to the beach in years before Costa Rica. I went snowboarding. And so being sure to make those decisions that I benefit from emotionally and mentally. And as far as like work goes, no longer breaking my back.
Yeah, literally
to work. I feel like now I've gotten myself a really great position at a company that gives me a lot of flexibility and holding up those boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, if we bring it all back together, this year is a year of upholding boundaries and reinforcing new beliefs.
Yeah, and perhaps finding out a way to make it all work.
Exactly.
I think it will work.
Exactly. And that's the fun thing about it is I'm confident that it will work.
Yeah.
And that's
because you are going to make it work.
Exactly.
You know your job the best. You know how to make it work.
Exactly. And it's now, I've found this confidence that it's going to work,
Yes.
From overcoming the fear and the anxiety about the trip, I'm now in a very relaxed place of, hey, it's going to work. If it's meant to work, it's going to work. And if it's not meant to work, it's okay. I'm resilient and I'll find the next thing that'll work.
Of course, that's the attitude. I am so happy that you accepted my invitation. This conversation is so good. I think it's just the best surprises always come when you're prepared. And then we just go like that.
No, it's really been great talking to you. Really exciting to hear. Like I said earlier, hearing, you start forming these ideas in your head, and you don't hear anyone else with the ideas, and you're thinking like, am I going crazy? Is this me taking a leap off of the beaten path?
Yeah.
But when you pursue it and you follow it and you follow your instinct, you start meeting other people who have the same thoughts, and it's so invigorating.
Oh, for sure. So refreshing. You feel
Yes.
so alive. And I've learned that if I'm not meeting the kind of friends, the kind of partners, the kind of whoever, it's because I'm not meeting them on this path. I need to remove myself from that environment so that I would meet them.
Yes.
It happens every time. So lovely, though.
It's definitely one of those stories people have told me over and over again. Surround yourself by people you admire. And every time I make the decision to do that, like, hey, I think that person's
Because you-
really cool.
Because you admire yourself by taking that action.
Yes.
You become that person, and therefore it draws people in.
Exactly. And you pick up traits from the people that you admire from people, and you become the person you ultimately want to be.
Yes.
Even if you didn't know that you wanted to be that person.
Yeah. We all become people we like,
Exactly.
unintentionally, unconsciously, but in a very enjoyable way.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. It was so nice to have this conversation with you. After we have just met today, but I'm very certain that we are going to see each other a lot.
For sure. I appreciate you having me because this is great. Like I said, invigorating.
Thank you. Yay.